Hey, my beautiful mamas. Okay, as I said in the intro, in the bio, stop what you're doing. Please, this conversation is so important. And the person on the other side of the microphone is incredibly beautiful on the inside and out. She's an expert. So she has literally so much good golden nuggets of knowledge that can help change your life today if you choose to do so. So Layne, please introduce yourself to my community.
Well, hello, and thank you for having me, Scotty. And it's so nice to just be here and, get to connect with women all over the world. But I'm Layne VanLieshout, and I help women feel healthier, happier, and hotter. We do this by optimizing your gut and your hormones. I'm a certified functional practitioner. I've got over 15 years of clinical experience in the health space, and this work is so important to me, not only because I saw firsthand the broken system from working in it, but also on the other side as a patient. I felt very unsupported, unseen, confused, frustrated, couldn't get answers when I was going through my own health challenges several years ago. And with all of that, I had just had it. I was like, there's got to be a better way. And the lack of support pushed me in another direction with health. So it was the conventional system I was trained in that I knew at the time I could see some of the pitfalls of it, but what do you do about something that big?
Yeah.
And so I decided, first I have to figure out my own health. And once I did, I was like, I have to teach other people this too. I have to help as many women as possible through this. Because if I was struggling, I know I'm not alone in that. How many other women need this type of support? So that was the beginning of my journey into functional medicine. And I pivoted my career ultimately so that I could support women in this way.
I love it. And I want to talk about that turning point that really made you realize. It sounds like it was a combination of just not feeling seen and not getting the answers. And I'll share my story about that too. But also realizing that there was something going on with you personally, your own health. What was it that you felt like if you're, sitting in the doctor's office and you met with a doctor and you're like, oh my gosh, they're not hearing me. They're not seeing me. But you walk out, what was going on with your body where you just felt like, I can't keep going to the same doctor. I've got to go figure out a different thing. What was that turning point for you?
Well, I had always considered myself healthy. On the outside, I looked fine. But on the inside, my body was like screaming for help. And I think that's how it starts, right? We kind of live this like status quo. We have our baseline, and sometimes it's a slow journey to the decline. And other times it's like, oh, I don't know what happened, but 6 months ago, just things shifted. And that was more how it was for me. I was like, ever since, this time in my life, I've really noticed a lot of internal panic, burnout, insomnia, like physical symptoms of anxiety. And that became my normal. Unfortunately, I accepted that as my normal for a while because it was really circumstantial also. And it progressed though, of course, because your body's so smart, it's going to compensate and compensate for so long. And then one day it's going to be like, listen, girl, we've had enough. You weren't listening to our whispers. So now we're about to scream at you. And so that's where I was. My body was screaming. I was having debilitating panic attacks out of nowhere, had never had them in my life. And these kind of like mystery neurological symptoms, like I probably can't even remember the extent of it because it's like a blur looking back. But I would feel dizzy, just like floaty, very disconnected from my body, like tingly. And I'm like, something is wrong. Like, I'm not okay. And going to my doctors, I had my primary, and I ended up seeing 2 different specialists, and all of my imaging and testing and labs came back normal. Yes. There was like one small thing. They're like, nah, you can take some vitamin D. It might help a little bit. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll take some vitamin D. But like, is that all? Is there something else going on? And so it was mainly just feeling like I had this constellation of symptoms and nobody was connecting the dots. And that's what stood out the most to me. We have a specialist for this system and this system, but nobody's looking at how the systems are working together, as if our bodies are like fragmented that way. And it was just all starting to kind of click for me. I didn't fully understand it yet, but I was like, these things are connected somehow. And I've just got to figure out exactly how.
And I really connecting the dots. I mean, I've noticed how many times I've gone to the doctor lately. It's a new doctor. There's so much change and so much turnover. And so every time I was going into the office, I felt like I was starting over. And I was so confused why they couldn't just read my file or why was I having to explain it. And, the what you said about, oh, everything's coming back normal. I spent a long time thinking that, okay, I'm normal, but so there's something wrong with me. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe something's wrong with me because normal for everybody else doesn't seem to be feeling good enough for me. So I tried to just toughen up. Okay, if I can just push through and toughen up and then just get used to it, then I'll be okay with normal. And then eventually normal turned into similar things. Like my body started it stopped working on me. I collapsed to the floor. I was having, I was not sleeping at night. I was not digesting food. Like all these things my body was saying, girl, maybe they said it was normal, but normal isn't really what's defining you right now. So if there's a mom listening right now and say she has a couple of these symptoms in her body. Maybe she's getting more headaches, maybe her more insomnia, maybe she's noticed a little extra weight gain, or maybe she's having more paranoia, more worries, more anxiety. How can she start today? I guess what would you suggest to her today if she is noticing those things and maybe she can't get into the doctor today, right?
Mhm.
What would you tell her to do? Like, should she record her symptoms or start noticing, or how would you talk to her if you could talk to her right now?
Well, first is acknowledging like you know your body better than anyone else ever will. And when we
Yeah.
do typically go to a conventional physician's office or you see different practitioners, how much time do they spend? And a lot of this is not inherently because that person is bad by any means. It's a system problem. They only have, 10 minutes. And so they don't have time to read the file every time or like learn from scratch every single person because they're under a lot of pressure. And so I think acknowledging that is really important. And also
Hmm.
just realizing like that might not be the route that is most supportive for you right now.
Yeah.
And that is why people like me do what we do because we look at the bigger picture and can connect the dots. And the model that we follow often allows a lot more time and space to look at the entire person instead of like, what is she coming in with today that I can like try to fix with a medication, you know? So
Yeah.
to start today, honestly, yes, you can record your symptoms. It's always helpful if like you think about a timeline. I do that with every single client. I was like, tell me your story. And then I'll go and write out like dates, years, when symptoms popped up or new diagnoses popped up. And oftentimes during our conversation, I'm like, what happened that year? What was life like?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that's the year I started grad school, or that was the year we moved to a different state and all these things happened. And so not that that really helps in the moment, but it helps you kind of zoom out and see this is the bigger picture and maybe what my body has been under all of this time that I maybe haven't acknowledged all the way or worked through all the way. And honestly, keep it simple. Like the foundations of
Okay.
health are never going to go away and they're not going to change. There's a
Yeah.
lot of like fluff and noise out there about like all these fancy gadgets and biohacking stuff. And those things can be beautiful. They can be wonderful depending on like the phase you are in within the healing process. But unless we have a solid foundation to stand on, they're not gonna be able to work as well. So I encourage
Oh,
you like
interesting.
get back to the basics.
Okay.
Are we nourishing our body? And I would love to dive more into
Hmm.
that, but are we sleeping? Are we hydrating? Are we having some degree of stress resilience, which I know is hard? But what I would, and you can let me know, but talking about
I
like
love
the
that.
physical stressors is really impactful because we often ignore that part. We think of the mental stress and not the physical. So that's where I
Okay.
would start is okay, if we can't really tackle all of our mental stress right now because of the state of the world, our to-do list, our career, our family, what can we control? And we can control so many of the physical aspects.
Oh, let's dive into that. Let's dive into the stressors that she's dealing with, and also the nourishment, because I do think we've got a lot of moms listening. They're exhausted.
Mhm.
You know, they're juggling a million things. You are literally sitting here, you are pregnant and you know what it's like. I mean, your body's not even your own when you're a mom anymore, right? And so it is natural for moms out of the goodness of our heart to put our health on the back burner so that we can get to everything that is needed from us, right? We're always being asked by someone or something, hey, I need you. And of course, I love you so much. I'm going to stop, even if that means I don't get to finish my turkey sandwich, right? So, can we talk about, let's break it down. Let's talk about the importance of nourishment, what you really see there and what's lacking in moms.
Mhm.
And then let's talk about those physical stressors. What are those things that she does have control over? Because that's something that she could start even noticing today.
Well, lack of nourishment is one of the biggest physical stressors there is. And I
Okay.
can't tell you, I feel like I talk all the time on my social media about the importance of eating and breakfast and not skipping meals and protein and fat and starchy carbs and all these things. But it doesn't matter like who I talk to. There's so much room for improvement all the time. And this doesn't mean you have to be perfect. It's just how can we take one step in that direction to give our bodies what it needs and what it's asking for? So, under eating is usually the bigger problem among women that I talk to.
Okay.
Under fueling,
Okay.
which is opposite of what we often have been told.
Yep.
Because it's always like, no, cut calories, low fat, low carb, low salt, like whatever. And so we're conditioned to kind of think we have to just be as small as possible. But what that usually equates to is women who are just not nourishing properly. And that leads to a whole host
Mm,
of symptoms. And if not corrected, disease or dysfunction in our body. So when we're underfueled, think of that as a direct physical stressor. We are sending
okay.
signals to our brain that we are not safe. If we don't have the micro or macronutrients that our body needs to carry out basic functions, things are going to inevitably be off balance. You might not notice it right
Okay.
away, although many people do. You can tell, like, if you skip a meal, you have those like immediate kind of hunger symptoms, irritability, low energy, focus changes. But that might not be as apparent for some people. But over
Mm,
time, it's going to compound and your body's going to become more and more and more depleted. So,
okay.
you know, to create energy on a cellular level, we need these nutrients. We need these nutrients to create hormones. And we know how much of an impact that has on our moods and our energy and our metabolism. So, if we're depriving our body of that, it's not surprising that we can start to see some dysregulation occur.
Okay. So what if can you explain that skipping breakfast every day, it's not just a short-term issue, but something that could snowball into real significant health and regret down the road? Like what are some of those real red flag health symptoms that she might eventually experience if she's not nourishing her body?
Yeah. So the intermittent fasting's been a hot topic the past few years. And I feel
Yeah.
like there can be a time and place for that. So I don't want to make any blanket statements because especially in the postmenopausal phase of life, it can be more beneficial for women depending on some other things. But for most women who are cycling to any degree, breakfast we want to be eating breakfast. We're already
Yeah.
fasting while we're sleeping overnight, and so our first meal of the day actually helps support regulated blood sugar levels and
Mm,
cortisol. So
mhm.
when we think of like this physiological stress and we think of why am I tired, why am I anxious, why am I irritable,
Mm,
why can't I focus, I'm just so blah feeling, it could be something as simple as fueling and supporting blood sugar and cortisol levels. So when
mm,
we do that
mhm,
for prolonged periods of time, we're teaching our body to adapt to that, number one. So a
mm,
lot of people they say they don't feel hungry for breakfast, which is so common. But when you
yeah.
train your body to skip breakfast, those hunger
Mm,
cues can get really dysregulated. And so it
interesting.
makes you perpetuate the cycle in many cases.
Yeah. Yeah.
So long term, like how are we seeing our metabolic profile shift? We can see glucose crashes that leads to cortisol spikes. Cortisol is like a
Mm,
master hormone. So it can then affect every other hormone in our body, like our thyroid or estrogen and progesterone balance. It can have an even deeper effect on blood sugar. So women who have experienced, thyroid dysfunction, whether it's usually hypothyroidism is a bit more common. It can be autoimmune in nature. That's the most common
Hmm.
cause of hypothyroidism in our country. But we can also see changes with our cycles in our, of
Yeah.
course, our energy levels and how our brain functions. It's also
Mm.
connected.
It's and we all know this, right? We all are receiving the information from our bodies. Those 4 p.m. crashes and the brain fog and not feeling good, right? I think that's what's I realized that I was living a decade of just never feeling great, right? I couldn't even remember the last time I felt great. And I kept blaming my kids. I kept blaming my husband. I kept blaming circumstances and life, but I wasn't really spending time noticing how am I living during my waking and sleeping hours? Am I feeding myself? Am I drinking enough water? Am I living on my phone till 2 o'clock in the morning to watch Arrested Development? Right. So and there's, this beauty of 80/20, right? Like you said, we don't have to be perfect here, but it's even just, for that mom who's listening, it's like just start noticing how are you feeding? And like you said, how's your foundation, right? How are the roots of the foundation? And you talked about it for a second. You were saying that, you open Instagram, my gosh, weighted vests, red light, sauna, cold plunges, CBD, microdosing. I don't even know. There is literally 1,000 tools out there that are telling us if you buy this tool, you will have no wrinkles, you will lose 30 pounds, you will have tons of energy and live 120 years, right? So of course, it's so attractive, right? As a busy mom who has no time, it's like, great. This is a $65, jar of CBD gummies that's going to help me sleep and lose 30 pounds. I'm not, skirting any of those tools. I think they're wonderful if they're working for you, but talk about if the foundation isn't there, how are those tools not even going to be received at their best?
Yeah, that's like a drop in a bucket. So, for full transparency, I am a big fan of a lot of those things. And ironically, CBD was one of the first things I tried in this whole entire journey.
I love
So,
it.
so sometimes these things can act as a catalyst for other
Mm,
steps. And that's how I see it within my own experience. It was like one tool that then led me to want to learn about more holistic remedies, and that made me
got it.
branch out. Just as an example, so um, all of these things can be great adjuncts to a foundation that you're building, whether
Okay.
it's something that you're just starting or you're actively still building that foundation, but ignoring the basic things that our body needs and just trying to like put a shiny coat on it with CBD and
Mm,
red light. It's not that they're harmful by any means. I mean, I wouldn't think there's much harm in those types of things for anyone necessarily, but it's not going to help you fix the root problem. And honestly, that's
okay.
the whole concept of what I do within functional medicine is like the root cause philosophy. If our body is creating these symptoms, which are signals, it's a way of our body communicating to us. And honestly, it's the only way our body can talk to us is through these like physical or mental feelings that we
Hmm.
have. If we're just trying to kind of cover them up uh, without really addressing the reason why, then it's not going to be a sustainable fix. I actually just made a post about this yesterday, but a lot of the, just supplements in general, for example, while they can be really supportive, if we're ignoring the massive amount of stress in our life, if we're ignoring the fact that we're not feeding our bodies, if we're ignoring all the toxins in our toxic bucket, so to speak, air
Mm,
quote toxic bucket, it's just like greenwashing. It's green medicine. It's just band-aids.
got it.
It can be part of
Just
the
Band-Aids.
bigger approach, but we can't be skipping the things that our body's actually craving.
Oh, I love how you're saying that. So there are so many beautiful tools. Doesn't mean that they're not going to help you and support you. but the real purpose is to get under the hood, right? Like, why are the headaches happening? Why is the bloating happening? This is your body trying to say, girl, if we can just understand why you keep getting the headaches and get to the root cause of that, then yes, this is something that you can also do to help sustain that health moving forward. So it's not about saying that something's good or bad or right or wrong, but because health isn't, we're, we're not a one size fits all,
No.
right? I think that's so important. And that's really specifically what I think the mission of your work is, because the doctors are they're busy, they're tapped out. How can they solve the root cause of something in 10 minutes? And that's, again, no anger to them whatsoever. But if there's something that has been persistent that isn't being supported with where you are currently, what's another solution? I think you offer that, which is so great. So talk about a client's journey with you, I guess. So if a mom who's coming to you and she thinks her fatigue, her mood swings, her bloating are just, I'm going to air quote, just part of mom life.
Mm.
What is actually happening inside of her body? I know, again, it's not a one size fits all, but what could some of those root causes be, and how do you help somebody with that?
Absolutely. Well, so many of those symptoms you just mentioned, the mood swings, irritability, exhaustion, bloating, menstrual abnormalities, acne, skin inflammation, weight gain, all of these things are so, so common that we've been conditioned to just think that they're normal. And we kind of touched on that in the
Yeah.
beginning, but all of these things have been so normalized that we don't often realize it doesn't have to be our normal everyday experience. And that's so beautiful when you can acknowledge that. While this
Mm.
might be common in our society, we don't have to stay there and accept that. We don't have to accept the societal norm. We can actually deviate and take our health back from an empowered place. And so
Love
when
that.
a client comes to me, usually I would say fatigue and bloating are the top symptoms that everybody has. And of course, there is some uniqueness within every person's story. But we want to zoom out and also look at the bigger picture. So I'm having them fill out a very comprehensive intake form. I don't want just like the short version, like give me as much as you're willing. That way I can put the pieces of the puzzle together. We're not just a
Got it.
physical body. Like we have to take into account like the mental, emotional, the stressors in our lives, our
Mhm.
childhood. And so I really
Yeah.
want to understand how everything is truly connected and possibly led to one thing after the next. So, one of my biggest focuses is gut health. And I find that taking a gut first approach is really impactful because it does have such a role with every other body system, with our brain,
Mm.
with our hormones, with our
Mm.
inflammation status. And so if we can dial in that, if we can feed our gut microbiome, if we can address any excessive leaky gut, if we can reduce gut inflammation, make sure we're digesting and absorbing our nutrients from all of the good food that we're eating, then we
Yeah.
can really help set the stage for hormone harmony and optimal brain health.
Hormone. I love that. Hormone harmony. I love it.
Yes.
You're connecting the dots. I think it's such a beautiful way to approach it, especially for that mom who feels so alone. She's in her house right now, or she's sitting in her car, or she's at her desk, and she's confused. Right. And this is how I was. I am a relatively healthy person. I've been an athlete my whole life. I don't sit around and eat bonbons and drink bourbon, even though there's nothing wrong with those things.
Mhm.
I'm just saying, like, a pretty healthy person. And thought that I was living a pretty low stress life. But when I went and dove deep into my own mental, emotional, and physical and spiritual health, and I realized that how connected those all are, I was separating them, right? When I realized how connected they all were, it was finally the first time that I felt seen and heard, and that I finally realized that my normal is mine, right? And I get to go out there and get the support I need. And like you said, it's connecting the dots and taking your health back. And I think that's really important for moms, especially moms who have kids that are watching them, who are learning from them, and who are also either benefiting or not benefiting from how a mom feels, right? I mean, when you're walking into the kitchen and you haven't slept and you feel like shit, who is the recipient of that, right? Like the kid, unfortunately, is going to be the one that's in the closest proximity to you. And they're going to see you not eating or eating or, crashing at 4 p.m. on the sofa from blood sugar. And, it's not, I mean, and I say this with love, but I also say it with urgency to the mom listening that you don't have to stay here, right? Like you can get some support so that you don't have to crash, you don't have to not sleep, and you can feel better. And I want to talk about like if she is not choosing to do anything, let's just say she says, yeah, this isn't me. It's not that bad. I can get through it. It's temporary. I'll focus on me later. I'll focus on me when my kid is in school or when my kid is driving or when my kid is, in college. If she takes that mindset, if she makes that choice, what might she look and feel like 5 to 10 years from now?
Usually, whatever you're experiencing now is just going to be amplified. So, when we just get by and everything's just good enough, I feel good enough for now, we think things are just going
Mm,
to get better. But if we're not going to change anything to improve, then
yeah.
it's going to create a spiral of sorts. So a little bloating now can turn into like IBS down the road. It can turn into like pretty significant GI dysfunction.
Oh, wow.
A little,
Okay.
let's say irritability or lack of energy now can turn into full blown fatigue and exhaustion that might have a medical diagnosis attached to it one day, like hypothyroidism. You know, there's so many there's so many possibilities because our body is continuously picking up the signals of what we're giving it in our surrounding environment too. And so eventually over time, if we're not creating that nourishment and that safety within our bodies, there's going to be dysfunction that can. 'Cause here's another thing too. Like a lot of times when we feel these like kind of vague symptoms, like you and I both experience, like they were vague, maybe they were a little bit more in your face. But if our labs were normal, we
Mm,
kind of oftentimes the conversation stops because many times women don't feel empowered enough to like advocate more.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
normal doesn't mean optimal. So just if our labs fall in that normal range doesn't mean your labs are optimal. And that's one of the biggest differences when it comes to lab work from a conventional lens versus a functional root cause lens. The conventional lab ranges are very broad in most cases. So there's like a wide range of quote normal. And that's based on the average population. So if we think about the health
Thank
of
you for saying that.
we think about the health
Y-
of
y-
the average population, they're not exactly the picture of health.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying even just those vague symptoms, right? Because I think sometimes you do feel
Yeah,
okay, right? Maybe Tuesday you feel okay, but Wednesday, Thursday you don't. So you just think, oh, it's just temporary. It's not that big of a deal. And we kind of don't notice that it's happening more frequently, right? Until it becomes chronic. And I really also appreciate you saying normal isn't optimal, right? Just because, yeah, your labs, and that's what happened to me. Just because my labs kept coming back normal, I quieted down. I stopped talking because I thought, gosh, something must be wrong with
literally.
me, right? Because the doctor is literally telling me there's nothing wrong with
Mhm.
me. And yet I'm waking up and I'm like, y'all, something is wrong with me. Like I don't feel good. On the flip side, what changes when a woman decides to work with you, when she decides that to go all in and get that gut first approach, which I want to learn more about, but when she just says to herself, like, I'm not waiting anymore, like, I want optimal, what are some amazing things she will experience?
Some things that my clients have told me before is I didn't know I could feel this good because we have
Uh,
accepted
oh,
that status quo. And it's not that they even like felt bad for so long, but we get so used to it. And then oftentimes there is a breaking point where like, okay, like, yeah, I can't, I'm so tired of being bloated. I can't use the bathroom or I'm using it 10 times a day. I'm so tired. My joints hurt, all these things are adding up and it's too much and I'm ready. And then when someone goes through like a transformation like this, when we get your gut health in check, when we can find these missing puzzle pieces that nobody has really looked at before, the
mm,
body can feel safe and function the way God designed it to.
Oh, I love
So
that.
many times we think of our bodies as broken when we have these symptoms or these health dynamics, but it's not because your body's against you ever. It is because there is something triggering these responses within that is leading to this dysfunction that might start small and get bigger. So oftentimes the women after we and this doesn't even have to be at the end of the program. This is often within a few weeks of working together. They're like, I'm
Oh.
actually like hungry for breakfast again. I'm having better energy. Like my digestion is so much more comfortable. I'm not bloated after every meal anymore. My period surprised me this time. I wasn't on my couch for
Mm,
3 days. And so it's those
wow.
very common but uncomfortable symptoms that women often deal with energy, moods, focus, anything digestive related, but also our hormones too.
I didn't know I could feel this good.
Hmm.
Right? And I think that's such a beautiful I want that to be the trend, honestly. I think so often when moms and women get together, we wanna we wanna feel held, we wanna feel seen and heard. So what do? We get together and we say, "Y'all, I didn't sleep last night." Another mom says, "Me neither." Oh, and what happens on social media, you see these mom influencers with 1 million followers, and they're making reels about how miserable they are, right? So it starts to train your brain to think this is normal. I'm supposed to feel like this. And if I go fix myself, if I actually have time to eat and sleep and take care of myself, and I come showing up to carpool showered and energized and feeling great, no one's going to like me. I'm not going to belong because I'm going to be the weird mom, the one that isn't suffering. And so I want now moms to know that you don't have to feel like shit to be a good mom, right? Like that's actually not a requirement. In fact, the better you feel, the better you mom. And the more we can say these things like, it feels good to feel good. You're allowed to feel good. That should be the conversations. Yes, y'all, I didn't sleep well last night. How about y'all? I slept so great last night. I had the best dream. Chris Hemsworth came to me last night and took me out to a movie. Like, and that it's just like cheering each other on for our health and wellness versus only believing that the mommy martyr is the way to live. And I think, you starting that path, you formed your business out of your own personal need, right? You literally did this. And so if there's a mom listening and she is curious about you and how to work with you, what does that look like? What are the first steps if she was interested in, if she was that mom that said, no more, I want that. I want to feel good.
I really love the idea of just making this trend, like like you said. I didn't know it could
Can
be
we
this
do that?
good because listen, when we prioritize our health or talk about what's going well, how
Yeah.
many people are you inspiring all around you? Like not only your mom friends and your family, but like your children, like the people who
Your children.
yeah, and that's what matters most to us is our loved ones, the people that we care about so deeply. If we can inspire them to prioritize their health and that life can actually be this good and this is some ways that we can do that, it's such a massive ripple effect. and and
Hmm.
so instead of like spreading like the the martyr syndrome of everything of like, oh, everything has to suck when you're a mom, because lord, I do not want that to be true.
I don't, it doesn't. It doesn't. I want to start the whole trend with like the Meg Ryan, like I'll have what she's having.
Yes.
Like I want us to look at moms in our neighborhood, in our mom groups on social media. They're not perfect, they're real, but they're like, look, my priority is how can I feel my best? Because that's going to help me run this house the
Yeah.
best, right? Like that's the trend versus these shells of these women. Because ultimately, what's going to happen is what you talked about, the kids eventually leave the house. And then what are you left with? A broken foundation,
Mm.
right? And then you're starting from way behind the line, like way back in the negative. It is so much harder to take care of yourself. Sorry to say, I'm 48. It's my body doesn't bounce back like it did when I was 35, right? So I'm realizing now, gosh, I'm glad I started 5 years ago because if I was just starting today, it would be that much harder. So how can we help moms not get to that
Mhm.
point? Like learning how to take care of yourself and your kid at the very same time,
Yeah.
right? Like you're about to give birth. Guess what? You get to learn how to take care of you as a new mom and take care of your
Yeah.
baby. What a beautiful language, right? Like that's what has been missing. And so then like and I think that goes back to what you were talking about. It's not just the doctor's labs. How are you talking to yourself? How are you taking care of yourself, your foundation, your basic needs, and the stress of your environment, right? Like the physical stressors.
Yeah.
So, okay, yeah. So if I want her to have all of that. So how does she work with you? What does it look like to work with you?
So when I first start with a client, if we're going to work one-on-one or any capacity where there's one-on-one time, there's labs, I would love to just connect on the phone or on Zoom first. So I want to
Okay.
make sure I'm a good fit for them and vice versa. I don't want to waste anybody's time. I don't want my time to be wasted. So if we're a good fit, if they're highly motivated, and if they have dynamics and goals that I feel that I'm very confident in helping them with, then let's go. But if they're not, then I want to direct them to the person that I feel like could be a good fit or to another resource. So usually we'll do like an intro call just to get to know each other. And then my next step is what we
I love
call a
that.
case review or a root cause case review. This is where we go through the intake, we go through their health story. We have 90 whole minutes together. So this is not like a rushed 15-minute appointment. Like we're diving
Love
deep
it.
and we're working through and talking through and making sense of so many of the different components within their story and helping her get the clarity that most likely, unless they've done some functional medicine work before, they're usually things that nobody has connected for them. So
Oh, okay.
that's kind of the foundation that I like to set because without this deep understanding of this person and their story, the fancy labs aren't going to mean as much. The cool supplements and the protocols and all of that, they're not going to be as customized to her. And so that's step one. And then once we kind of get that really good understanding of who this person is, where she's wanting to go, and how we're going to get there, then I'll create a custom plan for her. So usually we
Got it.
do labs. Not everybody needs labs though. So there is another option.
Hmm.
But if someone's very data driven, like me. Some of us are just like really analytical in that way, and we want to see the numbers on paper because often that can help us make the changes faster or more intentionally because we're like, oh, okay, it's not just because someone's telling me to do something; it's literally my body asking for it. So we incorporate
Mm,
a blend of
I like that.
different supplements, lifestyle, nutrition, and we're really helping her create a day to day life and routine that sets her body up to function more optimally. And that is how we help the symptoms dissipate. So that's option one. That's actually how I started my business is with this really
Oh,
deep, intensive, so to speak, really intimate connection with a client where we can work closely together and really get to the nitty gritty. But some women don't want that. Some women are maybe in different phases of their health journey or they don't want to dive in quite that deep yet. And if that's the case,
yeah.
that's okay too. You can make so much massive progress without the labs and without a lot of supplements. So I do
Hmm.
have an online 12-week reset that they can walk themselves through as well. And I would say that's a great
Oh,
place
great.
to start if they're like, I don't know how to eat. I don't know how to kind of establish a routine. I don't know how to kind of
Hmm.
get this foundation laid to where I feel confident and strong in that. That would be my go to. And then we can always add on some labs when you feel a little bit more stable in that sense.
I love that. So she can do it on her time,
Yes.
which is great. If she's, yeah, which is super helpful for that mom who is also still maybe battling with a little guilt of, I don't have enough time for me. And that kind of, what a beautiful bridge, like a nice step for her, especially if she's got that thought, like, I don't have time for me. I'll do it later. The 12-week program could be something that she could do like when her kids are at school or if she's got like 20 minutes of downtime,
Yeah,
right?
because a lot of it is very similar to how you listen to a podcast. You can listen to it.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like audio
love that.
and you can come back to it and kind of help the implementation throughout the week, but you can have the initial information download on the go. Because
Oh
I
my
know y'all are
gosh.
busy.
Brilliant.
Everyone's busy.
Hey, you're saying y'all, but it's about to be you too. So this is
Um,
great. You're going to be taking your own course. What I love that. I think that's great. So you're really offering just more of a self-paced course that she can listen to on the go. And then there's this real deep dive, one-on-one personal, more hand holding. So if she feels like, I just need somebody to tell me, just tell me what's going on. And I love how you phrased it. This is not about what other people are saying you should do, what the books are saying you should do. This is about you guys really getting under the hood of your
Yeah.
body and hearing this is what your body's asking. These are the puzzle pieces missing. And if we just figure this out, gosh, you can then, like, with my help, have everything. And then you can feel as good as my clients do. Like that, I didn't know I could feel this good. Right. And that is such, I love that. Um, I could talk to you for hours, but I do want to just touch on, you were talking about the importance of gut health. Can you just talk about why gut health is so important and why this matters to a mom right now? Like, why does she need to care about her gut?
Mhm.
Why?
There is so much we could get into with this. I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible because y'all don't need a science lesson. Nobody's here for that. But in the most simple way to think about gut health is I want you to think about your microbiome, inflammation or leaky gut, which is kind of a trendy word. We can talk a little bit about that, but also your ability to digest your food. So your gut microbiome
Mm,
is all those good bacteria. We need to have a good balance of them so they can help us. It's a synergistic relationship, but if there are imbalances in this ecosystem, like low good
mm,
guys or overgrown bad guys, it can create dysfunction that often shows up as GI symptoms, but not always. Sometimes it can be more systemic, like the gut brain connection can be affected. That can drive anxiety or fatigue or headaches, even.
wow.
So, really working on that gut microbiome is really important and feeding the gut microbiome. So, going back to the nourishment piece, how are we fueling our bodies? It's not just the like, oh, I gotta, hit my protein goal or I have to hit a calorie goal or a macro goal. It's like, no, literally, like the go even smaller than that. It's like on a cellular biological level, our bodies need these things. And
Mm,
that's probably one of the best
mm,
places to start is how can I fuel my gut bacteria in the best way possible? Now, the next portion I mentioned is like inflammation or leaky gut, and
okay.
just keeping inflammation at bay is really important. And we do that again through nourishment, through minimizing toxins in our lives, through building a stronger resilience to stress, sleep,
Mm,
sunlight,
mm,
getting movement in. All of these things help. They help the gut microbiome too. But when we have leaky gut, which I don't know how much we want to get into with that, but basically it can be excessively permeable and allow things that should have stayed in the gut to now cross out. And that can expose our
mm,
immune system, trigger an inflammatory cascade, which is, again, our body's beautiful design. It's doing that on
uh-huh.
purpose. But when the inflammation doesn't stop, that is when we can start to see system problems. So inflammation can then pop up in other body parts, skin inflammation, joint pain, headaches, brain fog, thyroiditis, anything inflammatory can be highly driven by the gut. And then the final thing is digestive capacity. So when we talk about all this food that we want to eat, you've got to make
Yeah.
sure we can break it down and absorb it. And so if you're eating like a beautiful diet and you're still having gut issues or still having other health issues in general, it could be a nutrient problem that's
Mm,
that's being driven by gut imbalances. Do we have enough stomach acid to break these things down? Well, how about digestive enzymes or bile? Are things coming into our actual body from our gut? Because what needs nutrients? Our brain, our cells to create
mm.
energy, our hormones, our adrenal glands to regulate cortisol, all these things. And so it's really another one of those like big picture moments. Like, how can we optimize all of these areas instead of just focusing on one thing? For example, people think if they just take a probiotic, gut health, that should be fine. We're doing we're doing a gut health protocol if we're on a probiotic, and that could not be further from the truth in many cases.
And then for somebody to understand, like, am I having issues? Is this coming from my gut? Is that part of information that they get from one of the labs they do with you?
Oh, yeah. So one of my favorite
Okay.
labs is a GI map, which is a gut microbiome analysis. So everything I
Okay.
just mentioned, we're looking at on paper.
you're looking at all of that. So she doesn't have to worry. She would just you would help her find all that information
Yes,
out.
absolutely.
Got it. It's what are some foods that would, if she's home today, like what are some things she could eat that would help fuel her gut biome? Or like what are some pro gut biome foods that are good to have in the
Oh,
pantry
I
or
love
fridge?
this question. So, I mean, easy surface level things that you would already think about is like probiotic rich foods. So that fermented foods, yogurt, those things are great. But honestly, so many women are lacking fiber. And those are
Oh,
often prebiotics. So a lot of all plant foods are going to be giving you prebiotics, which actually help your probiotics flourish naturally. So the more color, the better. I love to like
mm.
play like a little game with myself sometimes, be like, how many plants can I put on one plate? And it doesn't have to be just vegetables. Like it doesn't have to be boring. We're not talking about just like eating broccoli. I mean, we can make it a lot more fun than that, but nuts and seeds and fruits and,
Oh, okay.
any type of plant food is going to give you some of those benefits. So that's number
Familiar.
one. Number two is honestly, like we got to make sure we're getting protein in. Those amino acids are the building blocks to our gut immune system and neurotransmitters and all these other things. And so that is one of the foundational things within nutrition is we want to make sure we are supplying our body with the amino acids from protein. One of my
Okay.
favorite ways to boost this that's also really nourishing for the gut is through bone broth,
Okay.
which is easy oftentimes for
Yeah.
women because you don't have to cook anything. You can boil it in the pot, put it in the microwave if you have to, which I do more often than I'd like to admit. But
You
because
know,
it's
80/20, right?
good.
80/20.
Exactly. But it's a great way to boost protein. Plus, you're getting an amino acid called glutamine in there, which helps reduce leaky gut.
Amazing. So those are just some things that she could go put in her pantry and refrigerator right now.
Hmm.
Um, and so that way she doesn't even have to worry. If she was just adding in those things, all of that would just be positive, right? Even if her gut isn't leaky, that would all just be positive for her body
Yes.
anyway.
And I one thing you just said, I don't even think like you realize you said it, but like adding in, like add these things in. So often we think about
Yeah.
nutrition, we think like, what do we have to take away? What do we have to restrict?
Yes.
But y'all,
Yeah.
like, what can we add to our plate to make it more nourishing first? Are there foods that might be causing inflammation in our body? Sure. Maybe we do
Sure.
want to address that at some point, but more often than not, people do better if we focus on what we can add to our plate first. That way, we're
Mm.
not going into it with like a restrictive deprivation type mindset. We're like, oh, look at the abundance of food I get to eat, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, restrictive mindsets also they're temporary. They're not sustainable, right? Like if you decide that you're going to cut out dairy, sugar, alcohol, gluten,
Mhm.
great, but that you can't live your life that way, right? It's just too hard, right? So we want to what I love about what you do and the way you're allowing this approach is it's a feel good approach, right? Like like someone coming to work with you for the first time, they're being asked questions and someone's really listening. All right. When's the last time a mom has been asked like a really good question besides, where's my sock? And I forgot my laptop. Please bring it. Right. Um, and, like to really feel heard and to feel heard that how you are feeling matters, right? Not feeling good, that matters, right? Even if it's quote normal according to your labs. I love what you were saying. Like normal isn't optimal. Let's find your optimal and to really get under the hood of your unique body and what your body's trying to communicate to you. When I started listening to my body, not only did it start to help me feel better, but I just started to enjoy myself more. I think my body was finally so thankful that for years it was like, girl, I am knocking you over the head with these symptoms and you are not listening. And finally I started listening. I swear my body's like, I can now do everything that you're asking me to do.
Mhm.
Right? You want to go on that walk? I can do it. You want to sleep tonight? I can do it. You want to have patience to help your kid with math homework? I can do it because you listen to me. And I think that's such a powerful relationship, like our body and ourselves. And you help them develop that, which is and such a nice, not shocking way, right? It's not, it's like little baby steps out of your comfort zone, which I think is so nice. So it's sustainable versus the restriction, right? Like you have to cut out everything in order to have the life of your dreams. Bullshit, right? I think like we're changing, we're just going to change all the paradigms over here. Like the better you feel, the better you mom, the more abundance on your plate, the better your life. Like I love all of that. Um, so, and a couple of questions and then I'll let you go. You're amazing. Thank you so much. If there is a mom who is really interested, but she feels guilty about investing time, investing money, investing energy into her health this way, what's a reframe that you would want her to just hear today?
That's so common. I hear that all the time from women. And sometimes, even when we do end up working together, they initially, or they'll tell me how they initially were nervous because everybody has other things to pay for. Everybody has other things to do with their time, but they realize how much they actually got back time wise, number
Mm,
one. So that's example number one. They now have the energy to not only go to work and complete their day or whatever they're doing, but they also have the fuel left over to give to her people. And
oh,
then
yeah.
beyond that, too, is like, how much money are you wasting going to various doctors and specialists and doing supplements that the influencer told you about and all these biohacking tools? Not only like the actual financial part, but what else is it costing you? It's costing you
Mm,
life, literally, like life
time.
experience and time, which is what matters most to most of us, is like the time that we
Yeah.
have, how we feel, and how we spend it and who we spend it with. So a lot of the reframes really have to just come from rationally thinking about, like, what is it going to cost me to not figure out my health stuff, to not feel
Uh,
optimal, to not feel calm and safe and grounded in my own body? How is me not taking action in this way affecting my world or the world around me, perhaps in a not so positive way? And we don't like to think about that. And it's never from a place of intentionally being negative to anyone or anything, but our bodies again can only take
mhm.
so much, and it's going to show in an external way as well. One thing that
I love
I
that.
hear a lot of my clients say, so they've already like made the commitment and they're ready, but sometimes they still struggle to implement certain things because they feel selfish for eating breakfast because
Yeah.
someone else needs them too. And so like I get there's always going to be some caveats and we have to find what works for her. But oftentimes, if we can take the original message of what do I need, because that feels selfish a lot of times. But what if we
Hmm.
said instead, what does my body need right now?
Hmm.
It takes it like the personal part of it away. It's not about me. It's about like
Mhm.
what my physical body's actually asking.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And it is, it kind of makes it a third
Yeah.
person for a second. You're amazing. Where can everybody find you?
I'm most active on Instagram. I dabble in TikTok sometimes, and then I get overwhelmed and have to clear my plate. So we just do Instagram.
You listen to your body. You listen to your body.
And so my handle is my name with an underscore in between. So Layne_VanLieshout. That's the best place. And I've got some links in there where you can get in contact with me to book a call. The 12-week reset is on there. That is something that you can go ahead and start today.
Great.
And if you have any questions, just feel free to DM me. I love having conversations with women on even on Instagram. So that's it. That's
Perfect. I'm going to put all this in the show notes and I'll break it down so she can see your Instagram, the 12-week reset, everything. So she can just go click in the show notes right now and reach out to you. Thank you so much. You are a wealth of knowledge and I appreciate all the work that you've done because something else I think that happens when moms feel discouraged and they don't feel seen, they lose hope,
Mhm.
right? They lose hope that they'll ever feel good again. Will I ever feel good again? Will I ever get my body back? Will I ever feel like me again? And I think you are putting hope back into women. And that's really beautiful and so powerful and empowering because it then that transfers into every single section of their life, not just their own health. It transfers into everything. So thank you.
Well, thanks for saying that. I mean, I felt a period of hopelessness as well. So I've been there,
Yeah.
I can relate on a lot of levels to what my clients have been through, even though all of our stories are different and our current life looks different. But I know the hopelessness feeling of like, am I ever going to feel like
Mm.
me again? Am I ever going to feel at home in my body again? And just please
So
know
hard.
that yes, you can. You can have that hope restored. You can feel like you. And I said this in the beginning, but you know your body better than anyone else ever will. So no matter what another provider or person in your life is telling you, if you don't feel normal, listen to that and
Mm,
seek the support system that will help you figure out exactly what's going on.
love it. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Scotty. I loved being here with you today.
We're going to come back for a science episode on the gut.
Oh, don't tempt me.
I want to learn more, so that's great.
It is fascinating.